Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. I'm joined as always by my co-host Glenn. Glenn, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Dave. Doing well.
It's good to hear it. We'll get straight into the questions. So what do you got for the first one for me? Let her rip.
Wow, yeah. So
dive right in.
On the garage, you apparently put it on I tried every AI. So Alan Vincent says, thank you, sir. With respect to code, have you or did you try using the code output from one of them as a seed into the other?
I have. Well, in the sense that I've never taken the code, give it to the other, and then say, do you like it? Generally, I try it and then see if it works and if it has bugs. I let the original AI try and flail at it for an attempt or two. And if it doesn't work, I often take the code because I use Copilot in VS Code. So I'm using Claude Sonnet 4 as my primary code engine. And if it can't solve it, I take the code and I paste it into Grok 4 and I let it have a shot at it. So it's analyzing the code from Claude. And much to my surprise, even though I had tried all the AIs that are built in a Copilot, which is like Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT 4.1, none of them could find this bug. And I pasted the code in Grok, and on its first time, it saw that some of this output was being parsed. It was being output in octal and then reparsed as decimal. It wasn't obvious at all from looking at it, or I would have spotted it too. But Grok spotted it, so I was impressed. And that's a case where maybe if Grok had written the code, the ChatGPT could solve it. I don't know. But certainly having the AI review the code of a different AI has been beneficial for me. So.
Wow. And that's not something you did as part of that video that you released on Dave's Garage, but that's just part of your actual practical sort of daily, weekly use.
Yeah, that was just part of my daily workflow.
Yeah. Cool. Milos Ostrau says, has anyone ever given an AI an IQ or intelligence quotient test? Could any of them break out of the single digit range?
Oh, yeah. I think they're testing around 130, 140 right now, if I'm not mistaken. But there are some things it doesn't do well necessarily on. And so what they've created is something called the impossible test. And that's a case where they're down in the single digits and teens in terms of score out of 100. And the new Grok 4 kind of pushed that to 20 something as the latest score. And they're all, they leapfrog one another. So maybe the ChatGPT 5 will come out and will score even higher. But on the impossible test, they've broken into the 20s, but they're nowhere near the hundreds yet. So
now this impossible test is something sort of completely separate from an IQ test to give to a human being.
I think it's impossible for a human being because it requires deep domain knowledge in every field. There's like quantum mechanics, and then there's intense art questions or what. I actually don't know what the question mix is. I'm just guessing, but it's something like that.
And again, that video is titled, I tried every AI. So you got a whole bunch from all kinds of users. What about Grok 4? What about DeepSeek? What about Copilot, IBM Granite? What about Perplexity? So there's 6 other options.
So in fairness, in the video, I explained that these are my top 4. And those are the ones that I focus on. But in the thumbnail, it does say, or in the title, I tried them all, or I tried every AI, and I meant the top ones. And out of the probably 7 to 8 that I've tried, which I have not tried Perplexity, and that's an omission on my part. I mean, I've tried DeepSeek, and I've run DeepSeek at home, the full 605B model as well privately. And so I'm pretty familiar with them all, and I picked what I thought were the top 4. You may not agree on what is the top 4, and so you might be hurt that your favorite one wasn't included. For that, I say, well, it wasn't in my top 4, except for Perplexity, which I've never tried.
Okay. And you were talking previously with Copilot, and Copilot's our official authorized AI model at work, I guess. But you said Copilot, you can drive it towards a couple different LLMs then?
So in Visual Studio Code, you open it up as a side panel, as a chat box, and your code is in the right-hand side. Well, it depends how you lay it out. That's how I lay it out. And then you can chat with it about your code. And you have a drop-down menu that lets you pick who are you chatting with. And your options are ChatGPT 4.1, 4.0, Claude 3.7, Claude 4, Gemini 2.5. And you can enter subscription info if you have, a paid plan with any of those guys. Otherwise, you use the free ones and you're subject to throttling and limiting. But you just pick which model that you want to interact with, and it will modify your code for you.
Yeah, the paying for it and the throttling and modifying on the free one, they're throttling or limiting on the free ones was something that I've hit a couple times, but last night specifically preparing the questions for today, and I'll throw it into some AI model and get it to sort of categorize them and give me a sense of the interest that there might be for the questions. So I started off with ChatGPT and fed it my file. And it processed it and went, I missed some stuff in the file. I wanted to add some stuff. It's like, well, sorry, you've hit your limit. Try again in like 13 hours. Okay. So I went to Grok, threw it in there. And then I went, oh, well, it didn't quite do it right. So can you add this column? Yeah, it did that. And then I went, oh, can you try it with this other file? Fed it another file, fed it the wrong file, said, whoops, wrong file. Can I feed you another? And I screwed up and I did this 3-4 times. I never hit a limit on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never hit a limit on it either, but my wife used it a lot. And then I signed up for Grok 4, so I'm using that now. And that doesn't have a limit as far as I know. But even when I was using 3 under the free one, I never seemed to hit a limit myself. So
yeah, so that was one thing that was kind of handy. But yeah, I'm just looking for the free ones for now. If I got to jump from 1 or 2 to 3 of them, I'm happy to do that. Don't have the demand for a paid service yet, but it sure is.
Well, even with a paid one, if I'm using ChatGPT, say 4.1, and that's the premium model, you only get so many questions, and it's like, I'm tired, boss.
I'm a busy man. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Shout back. Toby, for Toby9999 says, I use Copilot on Windows because it's integrated and easy to access, and it does quite well for the C++ coding hints. He says, I guess it's based on one of the main ones. I have no idea. Kind of sounds like me. And I have no idea where the main ones are, though. And then I missed my, how do you access them, and are they free to use? So again, sort of along the lines of what I was talking about, but sounds like you're just sort of using the built-in one, doesn't know much about it. So
yes, with coding, what everybody was doing for a while was using a program called Cursor, which was Visual Studio Code. And then they took the code from Visual Studio Code, modified and hacked it to add the AI chat features to it. And it was cool. And it could talk to different models as well. And then Microsoft came along and said, well, we might as well just build that into Visual Studio Code. So they just did that. And then all these companies that have like multi-billion-dollar market capitalizations based on having written an extension to Visual Studio Code and hooked up the AI plumbing are suddenly in a tough spot where you can also get that for free. And so I was using Cursor, but now I just use VS Code, and it's the Copilot. Now, it's not using Copilot as the AI. Copilot is the feature that allows you to use an AI, and then you pick which AI you want to use. And this is the problem with Microsoft branding. It's like active what or what.net, and now it's Copilot this and Copilot that. And I'm not sure what's what, but.
Well, and that's where I got thrown off when you started talking about the different language models and Copilot with Visual Studio. And I'm like, well, hold on, we got Copilot, but I don't know they got different models. So it's, yeah. And again, Microsoft has a direct investment relationship with OpenAI, right? Through the ChatGPT stuff, but they're still through Visual Studio. You can access whatever model you have, but it's via their Copilot interface, I guess.
Yeah, it may default to the OpenAI models. I'm not sure, but.
Yeah. Interesting. Yep. And nothing like causing some confusion in there to get us all worked up. Mega Pangolin, GPT-4 has the, and he quotes you, secret sauce, and everyone else is playing catch up. This is brilliant. It says, did you get that from AI? Cracking analysis, the key issue of the day. Thank you.
No, I stole it from Pulp Fiction, the movie. And it's a joke I told my daughter when she was little. And let me see if I can remember how it goes. And if you've seen the movie, you'll know the joke. But it's a bunch of tomatoes are out for a walk. There's Mama Tomato and Papa Tomato and Baby Tomato. And Baby Tomato keeps falling behind. And Papa Tomato gets frustrated. And finally he reaches back and squishes him and says, catch up. And so from that pun came that other joke. But.
Nice. Lord Chariot, which AI would be most useful in helping create an electronic circuit schematic for a retro project idea, like a special Apple or Commodore add-in board? Any?
I don't know, but if somebody could tell me in the comments, I would love that, because what I would like is something like EasyADA or, KiCad or KiCad, however you say that one, with AI. So I can just say, hey, add a thing that does the thing and then hook up the stuff that makes the wires go boom. Because that's about the level of engineering I have. I've done one full circuit board, but.
Yeah. I mean, you're a plumber, not an electrician. So, yeah.
Actually, I've done two. I did Pong. I did a Pong PCB was the first PCB I ever made. And then the mesmerizer. So
a Pong PCB? When did you do that?
I did an episode for the channel for it. So I took the actual chip out of Pong.
Oh, right.
I put it in a socket, and then I built a circuit around it so that you could plug it into HDMI and use it on a modern TV and stuff.
Yeah, that was the professional Pong, so you could set the high score on the kid's machine, wasn't it?
No, that was Twist It, Smash It, Bop It Pro, whatever the hell that thing is. Right. Yeah. That's an ancient episode where I hacked that thing.
Just a dad having fun. Virtual Publishing LLC. Dave, could you give an estimate of how much more productive you would have been if during your Windows 95 days, if you had these AI tools back then?
8 times.
8 times.
What? Yeah. Well,
8
for
times
one, I
more
was
productive?
because I was facing a huge code base, right? I had code written by dozens and dozens of people that me and 3 other guys were trying to port all of it, which eventually meant reading every line of this code and going through it to make sure that the character pointer sizes were fine and stuff. And you could automate some of it, but a lot of it still came down to manual review. So it was just a ton of code. And I spent a lot of time not knowing in great detail how small things worked. Like in the shell copying ID lists or appending. It's just their paths, and it's how the shell keeps track of paths internally. And in the standard library, or I don't know if it's standard library, but you can take a path object now in C++20 and concatenate path objects and add to them and subtract and do all the things with them. That's the kind of thing where that was like such a small piece of code and it was so well tested that I never spent any time looking at it. Whereas if you were working on that team, you knew that code in and out because it was so fundamental to your existence. So I was looking at different code than other people, and it would have been great to ask the AI things like, hey, if I'm facing a bug in this area and I'm seeing this behavior, what part of the code do you think I should look at? And, probably pretty soon, if not already, it could probably find the bug for you if it drilled down far enough, but at least it would take you to the right section of the code, right? If I'm like, where's the window procedure for the tray where the clock is actually drawing the seconds on the clock display? That's going to take me 10 minutes to find using old traditional dir and grep. But if the AI can tell me in 1 minute or 30 seconds, that's several, it's an order of magnitude more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting here. I look at the second half after his question. He pipes in, he says, in my case, as an accountant in the 1970s, he says, I could have done my work in 20% of the time. So a magnitude of 5 right there.
Yeah.
So that, yeah. Pretty.
And so it's not so much that it's going to destroy jobs. It will destroy some jobs, but there are a lot of jobs that you're just going to be so much more powerful. Maybe they'll need fewer of you, but each person will be empowered to do so much more work more quickly. And I don't know. It's certainly a positive in the long run, but it's going to have some short-term shakeouts.
And again, I think we've talked about this in a couple of episodes previous with sort of technological change. I mean, again, back in the old days where you had, you called the receptionist, and you didn't have voicemail. So your phone rang, they wrote it on a piece of paper and that chain of phone calls back and forth. And same thing with computers. We all got them on our desk and email and stuff. There used to be typist pools where you spoke into a tape cassette recorder and it went to the clerical pool and they typed up your letter and then it came back and you reviewed it and signed it and marked it up and all that stuff just was seamless. So I think the other thing with this kind of stuff is it may make your work more efficient or you can do more with less, but the expectations can also ramp up to fill some of that freed up space and capacity as well. So
yeah. I also think that if you are a smart and inquisitive person, it's a fun time to be alive. But if you're kind of like, I like to drive the bus, and I'm not picking on that. That's just a different mindset. If I'm not a good bus driver, and I wouldn't be a great bus driver, but there are people that are great bus drivers, and their job may eventually go away because it's not really demanding intellectually. And so it's demanding on other levels, and we'll just lose the service that comes with it, I think. But be that as it may, whatever job is eliminated, certain jobs will become more empowered. I don't know. I kind of lost my original point other than it's going to impact at both poles, right?
But again, it's that inquisitive part. And if you want to do something and then do the same thing for 30 years, those days are mostly behind us for most instances.
Yeah,
It's
unless
a
you're
period
adding a
of-
personal service, like, waiters in restaurants, in theory, could be replaced by AI, but I don't think people want that because they want the human touch and some level of service. Same with nursing and firefighters and stuff like that. They may be assisted by AI, but they're not going to be replaced. So.
Okay, let's get back in our questions here. I took us off track. Conrad Z9W, C9W. Do LLMs actually save you time coding?
Yes. Yes.
If used properly.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So I'm working on a thing where I am making a virtual panel, like the old switch panel for a PDP-11 with all the lights and the switches and the blinking and all the fanciness. And I'm trying to hook up a real machine to a fake panel that runs on a web server somewhere so you can monitor the real machine from the web server. Long story short, I was doing the data exchange over the socket between the client and the server, and then I realized I got to put a header in front of this with the number of bytes and some flags to tell me what it was because I was just sending everything raw. And so I just told the AI, take my existing code, add a header in the front of my packet, add the number of bytes and some flags to differentiate which packet it is, and on the receiving side, receive those bytes, parse them out, and then continue as you had before. And it coughed that out. Now, that's grunt work, right? That's code I've written 100 times, well, not 100, a dozen times in my life. And I don't need to write it again. So for me, it's great if the AI can do it for me. The difference is I knew that I needed that code and I was able to tell it that I needed specifically that. Right now, that's important. Maybe in 3 years, that won't be important. Then you won't need software engineering knowledge to get it to write code. But right now, to get it to write effective code, you got to know what to ask for, I think. So.
Kevin Edwards says, this year isn't half over and you're going to tell us what the best ones of the year are?
Well, yeah, the last year, 365 days. I didn't say of the Gregorian calendar.
And John Godwin, he piles on here too. It changes so often, you'd need to do these at least once a quarter. What's the best AI in 2025 Q3?
Yeah, although I think some of the broader trends that I identified might still hold true across quarters, but I think you're right in that they all tend to stagger step and leapfrog one another. And you can't tell the players though the program. You got to know what's going on if you really want the best of the latest. Yeah,
and that was, you did state that in there, that they're always moving and jumping and jockeying for position. And yeah.
Right.
Martin Stam. So, did any of the AIs apologize politely if they did something wrong or unable to comply?
I've never had one be unable to. Well, I've had it refuse to answer because it didn't.
Well, you
like
did
my
have
question.
one example where your son was using it. It got so excited, or it said, thought you were so excited.
Oh yeah, so
told
this
you
is my son. He was trying to feed in a music project and get it to extract the stems from the music tracks. And he explained what he wanted to do and all this. And the AI is like, yeah, man, I'm stoked. I don't know which one he was using.
I can do this. Yep.
I'm pretty sure it was ChatGPT. And it was like, yeah, I can do that. That's great. And because you're signed up for ChatGPT Pro or Plus or whatever, you'll be able to download the files. It'll be great. Just check back in a day. And then he comes back in a day and it keeps stringing him along. And then finally, after about, I don't know if it was like 2 days or 3 days, it confesses that, I'm sorry. I thought I could do this at first, but then I realized I can't. But you were so excited. I wanted to make you happy. And I've got the whole transcript and it blew my mind. I posted it on Twitter at the time. Yeah, the AI was just trying to make him happy, telling him what they thought he wanted to know. And at the time it was, yeah, I can do that. No problem. But it had no way to do that.
But you haven't seen any apologies or anything like that from your recent
I have
testing?
Found a bug in the code and complained to the AI. And it's like, you are right to be upset. That's the closest I've got to an apology.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a start. Yeah, there's still some learning for it to do in that regard. Stealth Silence says, Dave, what do you think about the upcoming AI apocalypse?
Which one?
Yeah, can you be
how are we going to go? You got to tell me how we're going to all die, and I'll tell you how to solve it. But you got to be more specific.
Nikan or Nishan, why would I pay for any of these when they didn't pay to get their training data? Data.
Why would you pay your returnee when he read all the damn books in the library for free? Same argument.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. don't pay for them then. Just use the free service, but prepare to hit limits, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you're paying for somebody to assimilate knowledge, presumably, and provide analysis across domains. But the thing is, too, that there's nothing wrong with reading information and then being able to answer questions about it. If you read somebody's information and then regurgitate it later, that's a copyright violation just on its face. And so, no, you can't do that. But if you train an AI, I don't care if they train AI on any information I make public, like a show I make. I don't really want it to recreate me and my show. That would be a violation of trademark or copyright or something. But to be inspired by it and go make your own Bob's Attic channel or whatever, that's fine too.
We'll find you, Bob, and we'll hunt you down.
Yeah.
And we'll stand outside the end of your driveway and make mad faces. Eric says,
we're coming for Bob's Attic. What if there is a Bob's Attic channel? I should check. There probably is a Bob's Attic channel.
Yeah. Maybe Bob has a garage. I don't know. Bob's Dungeon? Oh, no, that's a different. Eric says, 10 seconds in, which tool made the image of Dave as a pharaoh in the upper right? And your thumbnail, I think they're two.
It was either Chat or Grok. I think I usually use ChatGPT for images. So.
Okay. Oh, and then our buddy Nerd. He did. Oh, but I haven't heard him say timestamps or GTFO. But he does have another piece of feedback here. He says, no summary in table format? Are you a real software engineer?
Well, yeah, but I would have AI generate it, and you guys don't like engineers using AI. So
someone else made a comment about a table and said, "Oh, you talk so much information. It'd be nice if there's a table, but yeah, we can't." Yeah. Lots of good ideas. Seedle 2626. Why did Microsoft get rid of NIC failover?
Didn't know they had it.
Oh,
so I didn't miss it.
They didn't miss it.
I wasn't. Yeah, okay. I didn't know you could actually do that. I thought you would have to bridge them or do something. I assume we're talking about network interface here.
I believe so. Yep. Nick.
And failover from one to the other. But what if you make a bridge in Windows and you bridge the two ports together, one goes down? Doesn't that kind of give you the same effect? I don't know. Explain in the comments to me what you've lost by losing Nick failover, because I'm not sure.
Clarify, Seedle. AGW. How big is an AI or LLM in its core program with no training data at all?
How big is it? Wait, try that again.
He says, how big is an AI LLM in its core program with no training data at all?
Oh, tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny. Meg.
K,
so
Meg.
When I was training Tempest, I was surprised with how small the model is because I only had a couple thousand parameters in my model. And then each frame that I saved would, not grow it that much because you're training the weights, but the model itself isn't that big. Now, if you have 605 billion parameters and each one's got links to every other parameter, then that's a lot of links and a lot of space and a lot of data. But to answer the question most directly, I think the model is the exact same size before it's trained as it is after. Because what you've got is you've got every node in the model, and each node has links to the next model or the next layer down. And what training does is refine and repoint all those links between the nodes. But the nodes have to start out there from the beginning. So the model does not, as far as I can think, change size. It just gets tuned as you run data through it.
Okay. So then the second part here is, can an LLM be limited to one topic and only give answers from the data, text, video that it's been provided? He says, for example, can I pick a topic and only feed that data in and only get that data as answers with no guessing or hallucinations? I guess that's kind of what you're doing with your Tempest model in some way.
In some ways, but it doesn't prevent it from hallucinating, because Tempest will hallucinate things and try it and drive into spikes. And
what you get is part of that, part of the build-in in the model of testing things and trying stuff to try and discover what you've told me 3 times what that phrase is.
Oh, gradient descent.
Gradient descent. Yeah.
So you want to get rid of local maxima.
Yeah.
Getting stuck on a mountain, basically. Stuck
so
on
you
a
can't
valley
have it limited to one topic, but that's not going to eliminate your hallucinations.
Well, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can only feed it data about a certain topic, and that will accomplish that pretty much on its own. Or you can feed it general data and then teach it later, I only want you to answer questions about this particular area. But I don't think that we have the ability right now to go in and prune and say, we've trained this model up on the whole world of data, but I just want firefighting information. and then it's going to be only 1/4 the size. You could, there's a phrase where you retrain the model distillation, and you could do that perhaps and refine it down to just that one topic. But now I'm kind of talking under my butt because I'm just thinking you could do that, right? I don't know of anybody doing that or that is how it's done, but that's my guess.
Okay, you got the last question here from the I Tried Every AI version here. My Left, 9397. This is the most informative AI LLM video I've ever seen, and it's not even AI generated. And then to hit it, he says, question for the attic. Why are you running your own local AIs and local language models when those publicly, though paid for, models or subscription ones are so good? Why are you running your own, Dave?
Well, it's kind of a same reason I have a home generator and a backup generator and solar panels. You know, I like to provide for my own if I can in the backup case. And I like to see what my hardware is capable of. And if it's capable, I have dual RTX 6000, so they're able to run a pretty good model locally. And that's kind of cool. So I do run that locally. In fact, let me see if it's still up.
I think it is, because I was just on it last night. I didn't use it, but I'm like, oh, it's still working. Yeah.
No, it's not working at the moment.
Oh, well, it was last night, so yeah.
Was it? That's weird.
Unless that's that model.
So I had a full old Llama instance publicly shared on my website, and I didn't tell anybody about it except people I knew. And so I was like, maybe I'll just tell everybody about it, but it's not still running.
Yeah. So don't tell them.
I won't.
But part of it is because you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's neat.
And then it's free.
We're moving on to the last Dave's Attic from a couple of weeks ago, the admin time bomb. So a couple of folks piped in here, Ja Rastafari Original and Don PP. What was the time bomb? Never heard that phrase in the video. And then Don says,
if you run as admin, you're going to get burned. Yeah, if you run as admin, you're going to get burned eventually. It's just a matter of time. So it's like a time bomb. It's like, I'm just going to juggle this thing and hope it never lands, and maybe it'll never happen to me. But eventually one day it'll happen to you. So.
The admin account is there. It's sort of hidden for a reason. You can still run the admin privileges under the UAC prompt. If you want to be and operate daily as the admin, go ahead. But you're setting yourself up for some sadness.
One other thing I think I should mention, hang on one second, if you could, just for the last question before that about using the private AI models. One thing I didn't really consider because it's not a big factor, but if you're running like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or one of the AI prompts that generates images, then you're not restricted on what kind of images you can generate. And if you want to ask questions about whether this is a pimple or a tumor and maybe not have it, you could run it on a disconnected VM and it won't be able to send it to anybody. And so if you're asking questions you don't want part of the public record on a public AI, that's a good reason to run it local and disconnected.
Yeah. Good point. Jody Vesser, or VE5 SAR, one of our ham radio guys. It's just I think a clarification here, or is understanding. It says, my understanding of TPM, and this is that it does not actually store the BitLocker key for a given drive. Rather, the encryption key stored in TPM is used to wrap or encrypt the BitLocker key, and that output is actually saved or stored on the disk in question. So he says, so then swapping M2 drives between Windows 10 and 11, the example that we were talking about, shouldn't really matter. The TPM master key remains intact and is used to decrypt the encrypted key stored on each drive. He says, that's the way I understand it. Am I wrong in that interpretation?
No, my only concern, and you're right, and I think that's roughly in line with what we said about if you have the recovery key, you can always probably get to the drive. What I was wondering if it would seamlessly just boot back up and work without having to go through entering the recovery key because it has the key stored in the TPM module. And if you put a different drive in there, I don't know if it remembers keys per drive or if it just remembers the key for the boot drive. And so I wasn't entirely sure, is it going to remember the key for your drive when you put it back in the second time? Since I'm not sure about that, my advice was make sure you have the recovery key, which will get you back to the data in any event. So
yeah,
it's kind of I don't know, but do this to be safe.
Yeah, you can operate as the admin, but Carlborough 2000 or 2K, he says, no, Dave, you are not right. The BitLocker key can be extracted at boot time by attaching wires to the chipset. Why do people even use disk encryption and not know the password? I think even BitLocker can be configured to be a real disk encryption, which prompts for the password at every boot. And if it's a password the user knows and can type, then it works. But that just sounded weird to me. You're going to attach wires to the chipset? That's a whole other level of...
Well, that's what I said in the episode about, or last ShopTalk, I guess, about using an in-circuit emulator or, even just a system emulator. You don't need to attach wires, I don't think, because you can get any state like that through the Hyper-V layer. But even if you can't, and you can do it through wires and picking up chip state and shocking the chip during the debug boot or whatever, make a video, show how it's done. I've had a number of people contact me and tell me how trivial it is to break BitLocker, but I've looked around and there's no videos or secret websites of people explaining how to break BitLocker. So either they're making a lot of money at it and they're keeping a secret, or it's a boast that doesn't hold true. But, video or it didn't happen, I guess, is my response to that one.
Yeah. Iniki pipes in here and says, "Hey, Dave, would you have a recommendation for a good alternative to BitLocker? I want to encrypt external drives, but use both Mint and Windows 10 and do not trust Microsoft anymore. So they won't use BitLocker. What are the other encryption options?" Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably something you can run on the Mint side, but to encrypt the Windows side, there used to be tools, but which ones are still around today, I'm not sure.
Okay. CashRam says about leaving your computer on all the time. He's heard of two schools of thought about it. The first one is hardware has a limited lifespan of operational hours, so conserve that time by powering it off when not needed. But the second one is thermal cycling causes damage to hardware, with more thermal cycles causing more damage. So leaving the system powered on as long as possible and leaving them off as long as possible to limit the number of thermal cycles. He says, what is your opinion on that?
I would say it depends what your system pulls at idle. So if your system only pulls 100 watts at idle and you can live with a 100-watt load, then I personally would leave it running. But if it pulls, 500, 600 watts just sitting there running your screensaver, that's probably not an effective use of electricity. So I guess it's going to be a value judgment based on how much power it actually pulls. And for me, like my Threadripper, it's dark. The fans aren't running, but if I hit a key, it will pop back to life. And so it's in sleep mode. And that's awake enough for me on a Threadripper. For the Mac, I want it to be awake much quicker. So it just goes to password lock and stays running because I need that machine available much more frequently. Yeah. So it kind of depends on your needs, I guess.
There you go. And this is a question from Ryan Merck that I threw in because it was me. He says, 2749, how do people use their thumb for any laptop-based fingerprint scanner? We were talking about that, and I was like, you said, I just use this. I'm like, don't you use that? And for me, it's because the only thing I use my thumbprint for is on my old iPad Pro, the Gen 1 one. So I'm a thumbprint guy. I totally forgot about keyboards and laptops and
I just changed the lock on my shop tonight and I put in one of these. I don't know how good it is or not, but it has a thumbprint scanner on it. And I put my thumb in instead of my finger because when you grab the lock, you grab it like that. And so it made sense. And an iPad also makes sense to grab with your thumb, but my laptop, it would make no sense.
Yeah, so I don't have a fingerprint reader on my laptop, but I have a thumbprint reader on my iPad. So I'm because I'm thinking, well, why would anyone use it? That's why I thought you were weird. You use your finger. What the hell are you putting your finger on your? Funny. So I thought that clarify that for myself and everyone else. The Jarvis family. I was probably just one of them, but I've always 25 years plus of Unix use, and I like this one because it's come up a couple times too. Pronounced sudo as sudo, even though I kind of guessed it means super user do. So sudo makes a certain degree of sense, but when have I ever allowed sense to stand in the way of doing what I want? Sudo forever.
So I'm of the same way, and I can't defend it because I know that sudo makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I say sudo as well. So I wrote
John
sudo I wrote it for 211 BSD because it doesn't exist. And so I wrote it. It's maybe not as good as the real sudo because all it does is if you have the admin rights, escalates for you, doesn't prompt for a password, just does it and goes ahead and runs the command. And it works, 99% of cases. Probably be safer if I asked for a password, but I don't. So, you don't need to ask for a password.
So that command that you wrote on the BSD is absolutely pronounced sudo then. Because you wrote it.
Because I wrote it, yeah.
Yeah. So
I hijacked the name.
John Doe, T6B3U. That might supposed to sell something or just looks neat. Spell something. After 1 million subs and hundreds of videos, do we really need to be reminded that you were a Microsoft software engineer in the 80s? Seems like you identify yourself with that job. And that said, you have changed and evolved into a new phase in your life.
Well, I both appreciate and resent that.
That's right. And it was the 90s. Not the 80s, but
80s, yeah. I was in school in the 80s. I would say that when I'm introducing a video about Microsoft Windows, I generally say it because I think it's relevant to people hearing about Microsoft Windows. When I wake my kids up in the morning, I don't say, hey, kids, it's time for school. I'm Dave from Microsoft in the 1990s. It's time to get up. So it really depends on the context of what I'm doing. Do I only self-identify with my time at Microsoft? No. But when I'm making a video about Microsoft Windows and saying I'm kind of a halfway expert on this because I work there, then I say it. So I, in the VAX video, I don't mention it because the VAX, even though we had VAXs in my very early career at Microsoft, it's not like I'm an engineer from digital, so I didn't mention it. So
it's much less relevant. Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's sad.
No, I think it's all in good fun. FFS, I really don't care. That's the username. 916, was that a reference to the 1978 Monkey series starring Masaki Sakai?
Would it be clever if it were? Then yes. Otherwise, no.
Excellent. Never disappoints. Keki Tech. As far as I understand it, the built-in admin user is what's being used to execute administrative action by the user. It can be used as a user, but it's not meant to be, correct?
No, it's a separate account. When you use admin rights as a user, you are not becoming the administrator. You are exerting your administrative rights that are associated with your account. So if you are the admin user, because you are admin, then you are always using your admin rights because you are the administrator account. So it doesn't give you that layer of differentiation. But no, there's a difference between becoming the administrator and being an administrator. And one has equal power to the other.
And then he says, as someone who's recently had the pleasure of running ICACLS on about 5.8 terabytes of loose user data files, I recommend not messing around unless you plan to F up your user data permissions. So, yeah, just a little tip. Mr. R. Meadows, if you set up a Windows 11 machine with one user, will that user always be an administrator?
That's a good question. I believe the first account is an administrator, yes.
Right. Okay.
Because otherwise you would have no way to set anybody else as administrator because only the administrator can do that. You would have to enable the administrator account to do it, but you can't do that unless you're administrator. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing there. So I can't prove it, but based on my best guess, yes.
Yeah. And then he says, how does that get applied if she isn't and there are no other active accounts? And that's, I think, the reason why the first account automatically gets set up as the admin account. Yeah.
Right.
Weed Freer. Doesn't WMI hold all the smart disk data?
I believe there is a fair bit of information available through WMI, but I don't know if it's all of it.
So he says,
I don't know what the system actually tracks.
As such, either VBS, what is it, VB Skyot or PowerShell could be used to interrogate the smart data?
VB Script or PowerShell. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's why it's spelled.
So you could write an Excel spreadsheet and you could have all the cells populate with VB Script that goes and pulls the WMI data and fills in here's your temperatures and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yes, there is a certain amount of data available through WMI. I don't know how extensive it is.
Okay. The Golden Child. Any thoughts as to why Microsoft removed the Windows Repair feature from disks after Windows XP? While the modern in-place upgrade is useful if your system actually loads Windows, it doesn't help at all if your system won't load Windows.
I think they just stopped calling it that, and it's more automated repair now. It does what it can to try to repair it. Because I've seen, as of Windows 10 for sure, it tried to repair a boot process problem automatically, and I didn't have to go in and pick repair or R or anything like that. So I don't think they removed the option so much as they try it and see if it works for you.
Last couple of questions here from the Time Bomb. Blaskowitz. What's some software that truly impressed you during the golden age of Windows XP, Vista, and 7?
Windows Vista, XP, and 7.
Software that during that golden age of XP, Vista, and 7.
Well, these are going to sound kind of silly, but the first one is the pinball game that shipped on Windows 95 in the Plus pack, which is the game I later ported to all of Windows on Windows NT. Just by coincidence, one of the reasons I was agreeable to do it is because I loved the original game and thought it was really well done. It's not a graphically demanding game, and you got a ball bouncing around, and the physics engine is well done, but it's very responsive and it's very fluid, and Windows was not known for that. So I really enjoyed that. And then for me, I think the game was Age of Empires, where you have the little cavemen walking around and hustle tough, and then they go and they dig for a while or whatever. For some reason, that game impressed me. And then, I guess Geometry Wars 3 was on the Xbox, but I was playing with it on the PC, which is a long story. But that impressed me at the time. So those are from that era, the ones that I remember the most.
Okay, cool. Last question from Bob Schwan. Dave, would you recreate some of the classic tools now lost to Windows? I don't know anyone better qualified to improve the UX UI experience. Pretty please?
What tools are you thinking of, though? Yeah. What's been lost?
I don't know. Some of the classic tools now lost.
I mean, if there's cool functionality that you can't get at anymore and it's a power user feature, I like to write little utilities and stuff. But let me know in the comments what features you think used to be in Windows that have been removed that could be added back by a third party, and disclaim all ownership to them, and I will write them.
There you go. And following on that and that other gentleman, that's how the show works here. You got the Dave's Garage and Dave's Attic, and questions. If you got questions, put a comment in the video, put a question mark in it, and that's what picks up the first screen. And then I sift through them, you sift through them, and we run them through some AI stuff, and we spit out 40 or 50 of them every week and read them in Dave's Attic here.
Yeah, one thing that's worth mentioning, too, is that on Dave's Garage, when I do an episode and I look at my analytics, something like 60 to 70% of the people can already be subscribed to the channel. Whereas on Dave's Garage, it's like 10 or 20% of the people are subscribed. So that means a lot of the people hearing me say this right now are not, in fact, subscribed to Dave's Attic. And they should, therefore, subscribe to Dave's Attic so they get future episodes of this. And if we become annoying or distracting, then by all means, unsubscribe. But I don't foresee that as a problem.
Well, no, stay subscribed. Just... you can stop watching. Yeah.
Well, click on them and then go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Click on it, give it a thumbs up, then don't watch it. We're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all we ask.
Over to you, Dave.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me out here, Glenn, and thanks to the audience as well. In the meantime and in between time, I hope to see you next time right here in ShopTalk. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.